Okay, so we're here, it's the new Hamfest 2019. I'm joined by Eric from Elecraft. Hi Eric.
Good morning.
And we saw you back in Dayton about 3 or 4 months ago, and you were debuting the new K4 radio.
Yep.
How are things going with that, Eric?
Oh, fantastic. Of course, what we had at Dayton were some of our first units out of engineering, and we were showing those operating. Now we actually have our full pre-production units going through final test on those. Of course, final software development, which never seems to stop. You're always adding features. But now we're getting ready to ramp up production, and our goal is to get this rolling after the first of the year, hopefully not too far past that, and get them out into the market. We had a phenomenal response at Dayton. We had our biggest sales year ever, actually, at Dayton in terms of new product sold, and the K4 certainly made that happen for us. So it's been an exciting year so far for us.
Excellent. Now you're here on the waters at Stanton Stan, which is obviously your UK distributor.
Yes.
You're obviously working with these guys very closely. What's happening in sort of Europe? I mean, in terms of like the dates for release, that sort of thing, is that still very much on track?
Yes, I think so. In terms of Europe, it'll be because we have to finish CE testing, and that comes from the first actual off-the-line production units. That will delay it about a month to 3 months afterwards. So probably you'll see units showing up in Europe through Waters and Stanton, and of course, and our other distributors outside of the UK in the March-April timeframe, probably realistically. We also have a large backlog we have to work through, but of course they'll have some early units, so they'll be able to satisfy their customers too.
And I assume if you want to get one of these, get in the queue, get your name on the list, I presume you can talk to yourselves or talk to your local distributor or dealer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're here in the UK, talk to Waters and Stanton, then they'll take your name down and everything, so that so that helps us. So we obviously know how many to produce and reserve for them before we ship.
That's great. Okay, excellent. And you mentioned that there's been some refinements in the software. Is this just kind of final polishing before you're going to go to production?
Well, final polishing, adding new features. We're planning for a lot of interesting things down the road after we release the radio too that we haven't even announced. We've had customers ask for things like when you have the K4D with diversity reception, the ability to add internal to the radio, the ability to adjust phase and amplitude so you can null out interference from a certain direction, and certainly we're looking at that. And certainly a lot of other fun features that will be coming out. But overall, the software is coming together very well. We've had these on the air operating. We don't always disclose their K4s on the air I usually say I have a homebrew radio. But though it's dangerous if I get on the air, they sort of assume what I'm operating. But other engineers, they're more anonymous. But we've been adding a lot of features, and also in terms of upgradability in the radio, we developed quite a bit in that area too.
That's great. And you mentioned to me earlier before we started to record, this very modular radio. It's very future-proof. Maybe we can talk about that. Well,
two pieces. Yeah. First of all, we have the three versions of the radio: the K4, K4D, K4 HD. K4 has the ability to listen. All of them have two receivers. K4 basically two receivers off of a single antenna, transmit-receive antenna at one time. Though you can use a separate receive antenna for it. But it's still a single source for the receiver at any one time. If you go to the K4D, now you can have two antennas feeding two analog to digital converters, which gives you the ability to do diversity reception, where you have two antennas on the same frequency, listening one in each ear. And as the signals fade, they fade at different times, and actually, it's like having an extra 6 dB or more of the ability to basically like antenna gain in terms of what you're listening to. You don't lose the signals as often, so you can talk to weaker people, things like that. And the K4 HD, of course, adds another module to go to even higher blocking dynamic range. We have roughly 130 dB of blocking dynamic range in the basic K4, K4D, so that's wonderful as it is. And then we can give that little extra bit for the de-expeditions and the multi-contest stations that have multiple people on the same site running a kilowatt or more on the same band. Different bands, that's not an issue. We have very sharp bandpass filters. We have refined the bandpass filters actually for Europe. For instance, our 20-meter filter rolls off quite sharply above the band when you want to use it in amateur mode, so that like the shortwave band just above that, around 19 meters, is blocked quite well. So we've heard that that's caused problems with some other radios. We want to make sure we do that. So we've gone through and refined minor things, adjusting values of the components. But in future-proofing the radio, the key thing we've probably hadn't emphasized early on, we've been talking a lot about now, is like the K3, we have the ability to actually, when we do a hardware change down the road. In some cases, a critical piece of hardware, like in the case of the K3 days, was a lower noise synthesizer we came out with the K3S. And we made that available as a plug-in for people with the existing K3s, and it was a big performance boost for them, so they were able to extend the life on their radios, not have to always go to the next newest model. Well, we've left that back door open also on the K4. The critical component on a direct sampling SDR like the K4 is that analog to digital converter on the front end, and we're running a very fast 122.8 megahertz sampling rate, 16-bit A to D converter from analog devices. Great device, but 4 or 5 years down the road, who knows exactly when, either they or one of their competitors, Texas Instruments and so on, will come out with the next fire-breathing, even better linearity, more dynamic range part. And we want to be ready for that. So we built rather than soldering the part directly to the main board, which is true for most all the radios out there except ours, this one's actually a very small plug-in module right next to the DSP, very short path, so there's no penalty for doing this. For both of the two A to Ds that go in for the K4D or a single one in the K4. We come out with that new one, we produce a new module, drop that in there, and surprise, you get the next boost in performance down the road.
Wow, so you're not buying a whole new radio, you just buy little units to go in there, and it's like having you get all the benefits of the new technology.
Absolutely, and of course the software in our radios, which we do not charge for in terms of the upgrades, that will continue to evolve. We'll keep adding features. One thing we do is we listen to customers quite a bit. So I've been writing down in my little iPhone notebook all people talking here, ideas they want to have put into it. And of course the list gets quite long after a while, but we select neat things off of that.
I was going to ask you, so when you come to these sort of trade shows, these shows where you're talking to customers, do you get a lot of feedback? Are you sort of making a big database of things that you might want to add in the future?
Absolutely. We were just talking about that phasing control for the two receivers. That's been requested numerous times, so I think you'll probably see that pop up down the road. I'm not promising it first release, but and that'll just be a new software release, and you load it in and away you go. So we get the ideas like that all the time off the internet, off the discussion groups on the internet. We read a lot of the ones that aren't even the ones we sponsor, the social media groups and so on, and occasionally participate and talk, but on those groups, obviously the Elecraft email list we're very active on, but continually we're getting ideas, and customers are our best ideas for new features, so we pay attention to that. That's a big part of the company.
Great, Eric, that's great. Look, I won't take too much of your time. It's been great to see you. Nice to see you here in the UK, and have a great show.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers.